Hello. Hello. Let's start. Let's start. So I will have one announcement, then I will give the floor to Shang. So just let you know, last week we have two winners for the raffle things, and one is Catherine Fuller. The other one is Yutong Chen. I see you are here, so lucky you. So yeah, don't forget, you still have the chance to win this week. So keep doing that, and keep coming to the auditorium. Thank you, everyone. Give the floor to Shang.
Thanks so much. Thanks everyone for being here. The format for today is a little bit different yet again in that we're going to have a series of lightning talks. I'm moderating today in my role as the doctoral and postdoctoral officer here at the school because our speakers today are four of our brilliant postdoctoral scholars. For those of you who aren't familiar with the what a postdoc position is, postdocs are folks who have recently completed their PhD and in the case of the Friedman School, have chosen to come to the Friedman School to work on specific projects and with our faculty and students. The lightning talk format is going to be really, we could call it postdocs, the fast and the furious, right? It's 9 to 10 minute talks, just time for really like 2 or 3 fast questions at the most. And then we have to move on to make sure we do fit everyone in the time available. But our postdoctoral scholars are going to be sharing a little bit about the work they've been working on. And to just dive right in, I will briefly introduce our first speaker. So Dr. Shijun Gao, you want to come on up here while I, because I'm not going to say a lot. Shijun joined us about 10 months ago, and has been working on cellular agriculture projects, as well as on the lasting project on sustainability metrics. And he's going to speak with you today on some of his work. You can change the slide while I'm finishing that, on some of his work from the cellular ag work, in particular, the impact of trust, information, and nudging on consumer preferences for cultivated and blended meat. So Shijun, go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. The sale of cultivated meat in the 2 restaurants. At Tufts, we have a cellular agriculture research center. We'll focus on this hot topic. There are lots of previous research data on this topic. And in the consumer preference aspect, lots of research indicates that consumers are against this new food technology. And there are also lots of research have shown that nudging could be an effective way to affect the consumer's preference. And then another key factor will affect consumers' preference for the new food technology is the trust levels on the different types of institution. So in this case, for this research, I try to answer the 2 main research questions. The first one is how do various types of nudging information will affect consumers' preference and their willingness to pay for the cultivated meat. The second one is how does the institutional trust will affect their preference and the willingness to pay for the cultivated meat. And in order to answer those 2 questions, I try to use consumers' choice experiments with different types of the nudging information. And for the choice experiments, it's a widely used research methods to study that the new novel food products before they release to the market. So in these choice experiments, the respondents will answer several of the choice questions. And in each choice questions, there are 4 different types of beef patties with different price levels. And the 4 types of beef patty I chosen, the first one is cultivated meat the beef patties. The second one is conventional ground beef patties. The third one is called blended ground beef patties, in which that's the beef patties are made using the 70% of the conventional beef with 30% of mushroom. And the fourth one I included is called cultivated and blended beef patties, which is made using the 70% of cultivated meat and 30% of mushroom. And for this study, it will be a within subject design, in which means that the respondents will be asked to answer the 2 rounds of the choice questions. And before they answer the second round of choice questions, they will be provided with different types of information. And in total, we have the 5 types of the information: the social norms, disclosure, and the consequence of the past choice. And for those all 5 types of information, they are all regarding with the environment aspects of cultivated meat. In particularly, social norms, disclosure, consequence of the past choice are the main factors of the nudging information in the behavioral economics. As I show you on the right side, the example of the social norms, we will inform the people that most people in the US are care about the environmental protection. And for the disclosure, we will tell people that the production of cultivated meat is more environment friendly than the production of conventional meat. For the consequence of the past choice, we will remind people that especially the beef production or food production as one of the main factors for the greenhouse gas emissions, which cause some of the environment problems. And for the disclosure, and we also divide to 3 different treatments. Based on that, if the research is done by the university or food company or the government, specifically the USDA. And since right now we are still in the processing of the collecting data, so in here I will show that's our preliminary results. The first results I want to show here is a difference in willingness to pay, which means that it shows that the difference of the consumers' willingness to pay in the round 1 and the round 2 the choice experiments. And what we found in here is that after respondents being exposure to the environment information, their choice or willingness to pay for ground beef patties is significantly decreasing. In particular, their willingness to pay for ground beef patties decreasing for $1.15 per pound. And in contrast, their willingness to pay for the cultivated and blended ground beef patties are significantly increasing by the $3.81 per pound. And this result also shows that it's not significantly affects their willingness to pay for the blended beef patty and the cultivated beef patties. Then we go one step further to further analysis of the different effects of large information and their willingness to pay for the different types of meat. And we got some really interesting results in here. We found that after the respondents being exposure to the social norms, their willingness to pay or choice of ground beef patties significantly decreasing. And in contrast, their choice of the blended ground beef patties and the cultivated ground beef patties are significantly increasing. And as shown in the last row, and after the respondents being exposure to that information about the consequence of their past choice, their choice or willingness to pay for both the cultivated ground beef patty and the cultivated and the blended ground beef patties all got significantly increasing. And then another thing we found in here, for the cultivated ground beef patties, it will significantly increasing, and no matter what types of the large information we provide. So from this research, I have 2 main takeaways in here. The first one is regarding the consumer preference for ground beef patties. In particularly, the regular ground beef patties are the most preferred options. And then the consumers prefer the following. The option they prefer is blended ground beef patties. And they prefer the cultivated ground beef patties moreover than the cultivated and the blended ground beef patties. Then regarding the influence of the information on their beef patty preference, we find the consumer preference for beef patties are shaped by what types of information were provided. especially that's the different type of the information we provided will affect their preference for different types of the beef patties in the different ways. Okay, thank you. And that is all I have for today. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gao. So if you can grab the microphone and step away so that Amin, you can switch the slides while Shijun answers some questions. And sure.
Really, really interesting.
Thank you.
Okay. Just a couple of questions. Could you say a little bit more about what the nudging information was? And I'm curious about the 64% of respondents in the social norms. How was that sample chosen? And is it disproportionately Gen Z, millennials, et cetera, because that might affect responses.
Got it. I think this is a great question. And to address your first question about nudging and the information we provide for social norms is that we will remind people that what most US people are more care about the environment. And for that information we got from one of the research. And I cannot recall it at the top of my hand, but it's coming from one of the research because for those informations, and it needs to be realistic. And for the disclosure, and we just show that the production of the cultivated meat is environmentally friendly than that's the conventional meat, which is also from the reference. And I remember for the university that one I got it from the Takasi, which is the cellular center, the information. And for the past choice, it's also from I think it's from the United Nations, their websites. And so it's about show that the past choice, that's the food system is the main effect cause that environment issues.
Environmental.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Some questions online as well from B. Rogers. How did you define consequences of past choice?
Okay, I think this is a great question. And for the past choice, at that time, and what I choosing is from the United Nations about that. So what are the consumers the United Nations shows us the food system, what are consumers their past choice about food, and especially about beef, cause that's it's a main impact. It's a main factor to cause that the greenhouse gas emission, which cause that environmental issues. So and the one main thing for the nudging and the information we provided is needs to be realistic and it needs to be trustable. So this is why I just try to search it and find the United Nations on their websites. They have this information. So this is how we choose it.
And one last fast question, and then we'll need to move on from Aaron Coughlin de Perez. Why do you think the nudging had more of an effect on the blended cultivated than on the cultivated alone?
So the question is why that nudging is more effective for the cultivated and blended than the cultivated?
Than the cultivated alone, yes.
Yeah, and for what I observe right now, because I think the one thing is that because the cultivated and the blended is not the preferred options around the 4 beef patties options. So that means it has more the higher the potential. And the second thing I think that because that's just as showing in the previous literature, consumers are against it because they are not familiar with it. So in this case, after we provide them with environment, especially those large information is around the environment, for cultivated and the blended one, because it's made using the cultivated meat, which is environment friendly than the conventional meat, and the 30% is about mushroom. So in that case, it has I would say it has a highest impact, the benefit to the environment. So I think this may be one of the reasons why it's significantly increasing their preference in the second rounds. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gao. I'm sorry that we don't have time for more questions, but the format is that we need to keep moving. So thank you. And I will just editorialize to remind people too with the work that Dr. Gao was presenting. He's collecting the data right now as we speak. Yes. So the target sample size is actually 1,200. So we'll be powered for testing more of our hypotheses, hopefully in the next few days. All right. So moving things over to our next speaker. Dr. Monique has been here for a little bit over a year now and is in the second year of his postdoc, working primarily with Dr. Nicole Blackstone and others of us on the cellular ag work and some related projects as well. Amin's managed to get himself involved in a lot of different things in his time here, but you're going to be speaking today about a recently published paper, is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm also going to talk about cell-cultivated meat. So I want to make sure everybody knows what cell-cultivated meat is, because sometimes when I'm talking about cell-cultivated meat, they say, yeah, I know what it is. I've tried Beyond Meat, Impossible Meat. So this is not plant-based meat. This is real meat produced from cells in a bioreactor. So it is not plant-based. This is a real meat, right? So this is Dr. Mark Post, the creator of the first cell-cultivated burger. So it happened in 2013, like 10 years ago. So it cost like $300,000 to just produce this burger. And this is only muscle. There's no fat in this burger. So I assume it didn't taste good too, right? But it was super expensive, but it was the first one. So remember this number because we're gonna get back to this later. So we can make or produce the conventional cell-cultivated meat from like chicken, cows, pig, seafood-based cell line. It can be also novel source of cell line, like lion or like the animals that went extinct, like mammoths. So there are companies working on these cell lines now. So how it is produced? For the production of this cell-cultivated meat, we need cells. So we can get it, like we need a few grams of cells to start the process. We can get it from a living animal. This is an unpainful procedure. So it can be stem cells, muscle cells, fat cell, skin, or any other source of cells. Then we put it in a bioreactor. It is like a brewing process, but way more complicated. In the brewing process, they only need glucose, but in this case, cells need everything, like carbohydrates, protein, growth factor, vitamins, so complicated. And the temperature should be the same temperature as animal bodies. Like in the case of cows, it should be 38 degrees, which is energy intensive. But in the case of insect, since the internal temperature is like environment temperature, we don't need to keep the temperature at high degrees. So now we have like 159 companies investing in this field. So only in 10 years. And like there are like some people like Bill Gates investing on this cell-cultivated meat. And 2023 was also a great year for this in this industry, because we have two companies which have USDA approval to have their product on the market. And this is Good Meat's chicken-based cells served at a restaurant in the US. So now it costs they have approval, right? But you cannot find it on the market. Do you know what the reason is? Yeah, cost. So it is done from $300,000 to only $100 per pound, but it's still expensive. It cannot compete with animal-based meat. So we need to reduce the cost of this process, right? And then one way is to use AI, or more specifically, machine learning, which is a subset of AI. So this machine learning use algorithm to find patterns in the data. First, we need to provide it the data, and then it uses the algorithm to learn how the process works, and then it can make decision using this data library that it has and the model that developed for that specific problem. So this is the process of cultivated meat production. This AI can be applied to optimize the bioreactor parameters, or to enhance the sensory properties of the produced meat, or to develop culture media or a scaffold. So in this work, we only focused on culture media because this is the cost and environmental hotspot. If we can produce sustainable culture media, then the final product is going to be sustainable too. So this is a collaboration with Virginia Tech University. So we used first we identified the environmental and cost hotspot in the media, which are mainly growth factors. And then we use this response surface methodology to design the experiment, to produce the data for this machine learning algorithm. So once we had this 91 experiments, they were served as the input for the machine learning algorithm. In this case, we use radial basis function artificial neural networks. We developed 3 models to predict the cell growth, cost, and global warming potential. And these 3 models were served as fitness function for one genetic algorithm to optimize these 3 aspects at the same time. So this is our radial basis function. We had this input, which are growth factor, vitamin C, selenium, and FPS. We had 1 hidden layer and 3 outputs. And then we use genetic algorithm to optimize this 3 developed model. So it involves like crossover, mating, mutation steps. And we ended up with these 3 optimized formulations. And this formulation, they have the potential to reduce global warming potential cost and increase the growth rate of cells. And then we experimentally validated this developed formulation to see if they work in the real life. And you can see the difference between the predicted and the experimentally validated cell growth is not remarkable. It's not huge, right? So it seems that the model works. So we applied it to optimize reduced serum culture media. It can be applied for serum-free. We have a project using the same framework to optimize serum-free media formulation. It can be used for optimization of a scaffold or controlling the bioreactor parameters. This work has been published, and if you are interested, please scan this QR, and then you can read the whole manuscript. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Amin. Any fast questions for Amin?
Thank you. This is really interesting work.
Thanks.
I'm wondering, so you're trying to optimize the cell culture. Is it at a single point in time, or is there some component of change over time that could optimize it even further?
So we optimize the formulation. So this is a mixture of nutrients, like their growth factor and vitamins, protein. So we optimize the formulation of the whole culture media. So this formula can be used anytime in the process of production of this.
Like changing nutrient requirements over the course of the production cycle.
So that is another one, right? Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Okay. Again, a fascinating presentation. Thank you. In I think it was 2019, the Lancet series published something called the Planetary Health Diet. And for developed countries, US in particular, they call for a reduction in red meat consumption. How would you classify cell cultured beef? What group would you put it in?
Like in terms of
Well, nutrient profile.
so it should be the same, and we can also enhance it. So I think in future you go to the market, I say I want this specific meat with this percentage of fat, and maybe we modify nutrients. So because we can make cells, and then we can make fat, we can mix it, and we can also add nutrients. So the final is it is up to us in terms of nutritional properties, what type of product
Us being who?
like the producers. Yeah.
Because if consumers saw a nutritional benefit and differentiated for red meat, that could be a selling point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
While we're waiting. Thank you. That was great. The companies that produce the media are different than the 156 companies, right? And they're supplying. Is that a much smaller number of companies? Are they growing? You're saying that's a big cost factor. Just maybe talk a little bit about that supply side.
So we have two types of companies. There are a group of companies that are producing culture media on site. And there is also another group that they are purchasing culture media from the other companies. So we have like both system, but I don't have data on like what percentage of company are producing their culture media on site. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. I think we should move on to the next speaker, but thank you so much, Amin, and apologies to anyone whose questions we did not get to. So we're going to now be switching things to our online presenters. And so our next speaker will be Dr. Travis Moore. Travis has been a postdoc at the Friedman School, working with Dean Economos for about 3 years now. And if Travis, he's remote now, but if he looks familiar, he was here in person for part of his time before starting to work remotely. And Travis is going to be speaking today on network interventions for child health equity coalitions. So go ahead, Travis.
Great, thank you. Just to make sure, can everyone hear me?
We can hear you well, thank you.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I'll be presenting on the topic of coalition network interventions for child health equity. We'll briefly explore the background behind a recently funded grant that is on childhood obesity and how coalitions and network interventions can address this issue, which is just about as upstream as you can get compared to the previous two presentations. So as most of us know, childhood obesity is on the rise, as displayed in the figure on the right, and it's been on the rise over the past few decades, right? And this is especially the case among families with socioeconomic disadvantage, where we see a 23 to 33% greater increase in childhood obesity prevalence. Researchers, including those here at Friedman, have shown that coalitions, otherwise known as cross-sector collaborations, can use evidence-based strategies to combat childhood obesity, particularly by modifying the policies, the behaviors, and the environments that influence child health. An example of an evidence-based strategy would be something like facilitating the implementation of specific programs like healthy foods in retail stores, or providing more access to school lunches, or even increasing the number of safe walking routes between home and school. However, the broad adoption or uptake of these strategies in a variety of contexts remains challenging. In the case of coalitions, broad would refer to adoption not just among coalition members, but also their respective organizations. On the right is a figure depicting the decrease in BMI as a result of program and policy intensity scores in the Healthy Community Study. And each line is a program or a policy, and it suggests overall that the quantity is more important than the quality. But we need to have better ways of capturing which programs and policies lead to healthier outcomes for children. And we see adoption of evidence-based strategies continues to be a challenge, even in coalitions with a supportive and effective organizational structure. And so ultimately, not to dive into too much of the weeds, research shows that it's a combination of both individual and relational factors that hinder the evidence-based strategy adoption among coalitions. And so some examples of individual factors is knowledge of evidence or selection of evidence. And some examples of relational factors is who coalition members are connected to and with whom they discuss research evidence. So a large part of my research has a lot to do with network interventions. Broadly defined, network interventions involve purposeful efforts between researchers, public health practitioners, community organizers, and others. So it's multi-sectoral to accelerate behavioral change and achieve desired outcomes. In the context of evidence-based strategy adoption in coalitions, network interventions can modify the individual and relational factors that I briefly reviewed on the previous slide in two mainly different ways. One, creating structured activities for coalition members to work through that simultaneously build trust and helps review research evidence. An example of this would be convening coalition members, having them review research evidence on childhood obesity prevention, deciding which evidence pairs well with their coalition priorities and local community context, and then identifying their individual strengths and implementing that policy or practice. And the second way is leveraging the coalition's social network data to modify their network in a way that fosters the diffusion of that research evidence. So an example of that is modifying the network in the policy context by bringing in, for example, a local legislator or other decision maker to build an action plan around implementing a new policy. And so backing up a little bit, network interventions have already been shown to increase the adoption of evidence-based medical practices. This is largely because they can leverage leaders within the network to facilitate change at multiple levels. And multiple levels in my research context would mean the coalition, their organization, and ideally the coalition's broader community as well. So recently I was awarded a K99ROO Pathway to Independence Award through the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, which is a 5-year research and training grant awarded to facilitate postdoctoral scholars to make a timely transition from mentored research positions to independent tenure-track faculty positions. And so under the mentorship of researchers from Tufts, UMass Amherst, WashU, and NYU and others, the goal of the research project and the research part of this award is to develop and test the network interventions that will aid coalitions in adopting evidence-based strategies that have credible and reliable evidence already in promoting child healthy weights, specifically in populations with socioeconomic disadvantage. Aim 1 of this research, which I'm currently working on right now, is to form a community advisory council to do mainly 2 different things. One is to help develop and contextualize network interventions for coalitions to be tested in the second aim. And the second part of aim 1 is to develop an agent-based model, mainly to study how coalition members adopt research evidence and how the network interventions may bolster that process. So agent-based models are computer models that can aid in the study of interactions between people and things and places and time. And I'm mainly using agent-based modeling approach because it can help me understand the mechanisms involved in and the impact of coalition members' decision-making processes around research adoption. And so the second aim will focus on running a cluster randomized control trial with 2 coalitions at first to test the effectiveness of those network interventions that the Community Advisory Council developed in the first aim. And at the same time, refining that agent-based model by including new measures of research adoption, such as the structured interview for research evidence use, as well as developing it for practical use by public health researchers. So there's 3 main goals for this project. One is to develop a collection of network interventions for coalition leaders and public health researchers to improve the research to action translation gap. The second is to produce a parsimonious agent-based model representing adoption behavior for the purpose of being expanded on by other researchers. and hopefully in the future, the public health practitioners as well. And then the final one is to provide preliminary data in the form of things like participation rates, intervention acceptability, and confidence interval estimates to propose and conduct a larger R01 funded trial after the study is completed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Travis. We'll go to some questions. And also, Key, if I can ask you to share your screen while we're doing questions for Travis so that we're ready to go in the final presentation. So, question from Nicole.
Travis, this is really interesting work. I hope you don't mind a somewhat personal question. Could you talk a little bit about your background? Because it strikes me that you've proposed to do your background in training, a unique mix of things where you're developing a pretty complex model and also designing interventions. And usually we don't necessarily, I know your group is an exception, Travis is part of your group. Like we don't see this a lot, right? Folks doing these two things at the same time. So I wonder if you could talk about your journey and your training and how you got here to this idea of doing this high-powered modeling and the intervention work at the same time, because it seems really powerful.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So my background is, at least my master's degree was actually in counseling psychology. So that's that relational piece to this work. And then my PhD was in civil society and community research, which is very much the social movement and coalition part of this work. And during my doctoral work, I was involved with something called the Obesity Prevention Initiative in Wisconsin. And so that's sort of the topical focus that I've narrowed in and explored these factors within. So the combination of these different disciplines is really being expressed in this award, primarily because that's what these awards are for, and at least this grant. And so it's at the intersection of implementation science, network science, and other sciences, specifically nutrition science, to explore novel areas where we can make the most impact. And because of my background in community research, it's really important for me to make those sorts of relationships and explore science in this way.
Thanks.
Other questions? Or any questions from online? Great. Well, thank you so much, Travis, and congrats on the K99 ROO award. And we're looking forward to what you do with all this next.
Thank you.
So we are actually a minute or two ahead of schedule, which is leaving me very surprised. So I think we're ready for our next speaker. And Kia, just give me a moment. I'm going to change the display here so that everyone can see you as well as your slides. So that. All right, there we go. I think that's right. Okay, so our fourth speaker today is Dr. Jones, who is working on the Delta Greens Food as Medicine project in the Mississippi Delta. Kia joined us just about 6 months ago now and is working with Dean Economos and collaborators on this NIH-funded project. That's a very lengthy project, still in early days. But as I understand it, Kia, you'll be presenting on some of the summer preliminary data collection that you've been involved in the communities that the project is serving. Go ahead.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Kia Jones, and I will be discussing some of the preliminary formative evaluation insights for the Delta Greens project. And GREENS is an acronym which means a growing, a resilient, enriching, equitable, nourishing food system. As you can see, this is our logo. Okay, so for the Delta Greens project, the target area is the Mississippi Delta. As you can see in Figure 1, the Delta Health Centers that are located in Bolivar, Sunflower, and Washington counties. And as you can see, those red areas are at borderline than those actual counties. So the methods for the formative analysis work, whereas we did focus groups as well as interviews with patient focus groups, Delta Health Center staff members and providers, as well as farmer interviews for the farmers who will actually be helping assist with this project. We did it via Zoom, or we also use recording devices. We use those transcripts audio, and we use them by using transcripts from Zoom or Go's transcript. We cleaned that data for accuracy, and we also used in vivo to help with establish our code book, identified it and labeled the key things and ideas. So in regards to the patient focus groups and concept themes and sub-themes, so our main initial criteria for this was that each participant had to be a patient of the Delta Health Center in Bolivar, Sunflower, and Washington County. They must be 21 years or older, and they must have a diagnosis, or someone in the household must have a diagnosis of diabetes, high blood pressure, or they have experienced food insecurity. We screened a total of, we screened a total of 79 participants. Out of the 79 participants, only 34 of those participants were eligible. Out of the 34 that were eligible, we had a total of 25 participants that participated in our focus groups. And it's break down by Moorhead had 9 participants, as well as Mount Bayou had 11 participants, with both of 100% of African American, as well as Leland only had 5 participants with 80% African American. So the first emerging concept was patients emphasize that structural factors play a significant role in determining their health and diets, disparities within their communities, and the potential success of the food as medicine intervention. So basically for us, we were noticing that some of the key things that are underlining for the focus group for the patients, whereas thing 1 was the legacy of mistreatment, segregation, and systemic discrimination experienced in the Delta residents may influence the food as medicine intervention. I currently live in Jackson, Mississippi, whereas in the Delta, it's a little bit more of a segregation, way more discrimination. But one of the key sub things where we noticed that it was very difficult and impossible to obtain fresh, high quality produce. And one of the main concerns is that we will perpetuate historical mistreatment. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people on this call are very privy to African Americans are not very open to actually participating into research. So these are some key sub things that we actually noticed within our focus group of the patients. The next emergent concept, we also noticed that patients overwhelmingly agree that the primary benefits of the food and medicine intervention are economic relief and expanded access to nutritious foods. As you may know, that Mississippi is one of the poorest states here. So actually giving them some economic relief where they can get weekly produce boxes and as well as nutritious food was a bonus factor. So the second thing that we know is that the food as medicine comprehensive approach bridges individual health with local economic priorities. So basically, we can mitigate financial stress brought on by the high cost of food and other basic living essentials. As you guys may know, buying groceries has been very, very expensive. It also can be more convenient to go get something from fast food. So just knowing that this food and medicine approach will be helping our target population will also be great. We also could alleviate nutrition insecurity by improving produce availability and accessibility. That has been very, very common theme within our formative work, whereas there are not many food markets in the Delta. Also, they spoke of a lot of gatekeeping in regards to healthy fruits and vegetables in the Delta. Emerging concept number 3, we must maximize the appeal of the produce boxes to ensure adherence and acceptability. So this thing is very important because we do not want to do these produce boxes and the fruits and vegetables are not appearing to be fresh. It does not look like it is adequate. And we also did not want to have wasted food. So the third thing was to prioritize the produce box freshness while accommodating household size and limiting waste. So patients really did not want to waste access to produce. So we also were thinking about incorporating the spillover effect, whereas Most people are not in the home of themselves, so the produce boxes could possibly be afforded for the people who are actually in the intervention, as well as other household members. Prioritize the freshness of the fruits and vegetables. We do not want to give people in this community fruits and vegetables we will not eat personally ourselves. And patients request produce quantity tailored towards the household needs. So emergent concept number 4, patients have varying opinions concerning the distribution of the produce boxes. So this is one of the most common things, because how are we going to implement this program? Whereas we know transportation and access is one of our limited things in the Mississippi Delta. So what is the best way for us to give these patients of the Delta Health Centers these boxes? So some of the sub things we talked about was home delivery, having home delivered boxes or self-help pickup. And we talked about also some of the things were barriers to home delivery, such as stray dogs, specific delivery time, nobody's there, and food could possibly spoil sitting out there. We also noticed that there were some sub things where willingness to actually pick up the produce box at the Delta Health Center clinic, since they are so prominent in the community, and leverage the community staple stores for access to produce distribution. And the last thing for the focus helps, the patient focus groups, concept number 5, what local produce do participants really want in their boxes? So our key thing is really trying to get key information from this community to see what do they like to eat, what do they prefer. So as you can see on this slide where you talked about the fruits and vegetables, you can see that watermelons, Mustang grapes, plums, and strawberries are the more popular fruits listed. But apples, peaches, cantaloupes, and figs were the least favorite fruits. In regards to vegetables, you can see onions, summer squashes, bell peppers, beets, and purple hull peas were some of the most highlighted favorite vegetables, whereas you can see that corn, tomatoes, lettuce, collard greens, and cucumbers were their least favorite. And undesired fruits and vegetables, where most people in this focus group did not like: beets, cauliflower, collard greens, tomatoes, radishes, okra, eggplant, and kale. In regards to the Delta Health Center staff focus groups, key themes and sub themes. So the Delta Health Center focus groups with the staff was very prominent, because these are the people that are interacting with these patients every day. So their insight is very, very important while we implement this program. So basically for this, we did email recruitment. We also had Delta Health Center share their shared list to try to get Delta Health Center staff interested. And also you have to be a provider of the Delta Health Center, and you have to be the age of 21 years of older. We had a total of 24 recruited in the medical profession, and we had a total of 18 recruited in the healthcare professionals. We had a total of 19 participants in regards to the Delta Health Center focus groups. So the first emergent concept that we noticed was the staff members strongly support the food is medicine intervention. So that was one of the key things that we noticed within this focus group. They were very intrigued and interested and very thrilled to work with us. So their insight has been so helpful thus far. So we do have strong support for the food is medicine intervention in the Mississippi Delta. Some of the sub things that we noticed about optimistic about the food is medicine intervention will positively impact patients' health, whereas they will be provided healthier foods, food free of cost to them. So that's very, very good to know. They also felt that they are confident the food is medicine intervention will attract patients looking to improve diet quality. Sometimes people have to be a little bit more open-minded about healthier foods because they may not know. And those are things that we do plan to incorporate with this intervention. And also this intervention may also address budgetary constraints limiting patients' ability to purchase the healthy produce. The second concept we noticed that the staff and providers recommend using direct recruitment methods and behavioral nudges. So the Delta Health Center will assist in project delivery, urgent direct recruitment methods. This is key in this intervention. We are not personally there with those people in the Mississippi Delta, so having the Delta Health Center's support in this process and actually doing the hard recruitment for this intervention will be our greatest benefactor of this project. So their strong willingness to partner with us and implement the study and with proper support from the project team, prioritizing personal explanations for them to understand what is the purpose of the food as medicine intervention, as well as the recruitment and education. The third concept, effective patient engagement, is necessary during all phases of the food as medicine intervention. So we talked about optimizing patient engagement through open and clear communication strategies at the Delta Health Center. So our key goal, you guys, is sustainability, okay? In order for us to sustain, for this food as medicine intervention to really, really work, we must strengthen our patient retention through streamlined, effective communication channels. We talked about communicating via email, communicating via text messages, getting appointment reminders or appointment pickups in regards to the food as medicine. We honestly, at first, initially did not think that phone calls or text messages would have been a great outlook to give clear, open communication to the members of this community, but our feedback let us know that they will appreciate constant communication, keeping them engaged and giving them courtesy calls. We also, the patient engaged with the Delta Health Center the best with consistency and structure. So keeping people engaged throughout this process, we will have a better outcome. And the fourth key emergent concept, staff and providers place substantial emphasis on the nutrition education component of the intervention, as well as the primary mechanism to improve the patient's health. So practical pathways to deliver nutrition education and improve produce box utilization and healthy eating. So we as a team thought about this, but talking to the actual Delta Health Center, doing quick cook recipes, doing descriptive details of the seasonings or different things that they can add to these fruits and vegetables, which can have a heart healthy seasoning options, and also open up their palate a little bit more. We also talked about having descriptive details about the ingredients of different things and what is the purpose of why are we eating this healthy food and what is the benefits of eating this healthy fruit and vegetable. So our next thing, we had insights for the farmer interviews. So the farmer interviews, they are local in the Mississippi Delta, and we also had 5 that were recruited, and all 5 had participated in the farmer interviews, and their criteria was to be 21 years and older. So based on the information from the key farmer interviews, we talked about farmers' agriculture values were ingrained from an early age. So most people, they were generational farmers. They had farming in their family, would have these values and traditions to continue to motivate their active involvement in farming and decisions to partner with our Food as Medicine project. So early cultivation of agricultural skills and values. So one of the main key sub things that we noticed when we were talking to the farmers, where early exposure and involvement in farming is very, very important, okay? So also knowing that the early exposure to the farming and how these experiences influence family farming and history of their passion for farming, okay? And we also must recognize that the racialized history of farming in the Mississippi Delta. And one of the last of the key things was inherited knowledge and practices. So these people are generational farmers, so they have farming legacies. So they really know the ins and outs of farming in their local areas. Emergent concept number 2, farmers have a holistic view of agriculture, intertwining personal passion and with community health, innovation, and sustainable practices to fulfill a purposeful role in the community. So this is a mission-focused farming, sustainable development, community involvement, and empowerment. So the 3 key things that we notice about this is the desire to expand and scale. So we balancing financial sustainability as well as community health promotion, because if we are working and partnering with the local farmers, that is also building an economy for them as well, okay? And it also will promote to actually purchase from local farmers in the area. We notice that agriculture and nutrition education are crucial to train the next generation of farmers and agricultural leaders. So that is a shared goal amongst the farmers in the Delta, to actually get the youth involved and get them to understand the importance of firsthand experience with produce and teaching them how to cook and about local produce. And also the last key thing is existing collaborative farming farming and resource sharing among farmers, where we are trying to engage in conversations where we can actually share ideas and resources to optimize the farming process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. Time for a fast question before we wrap up. Okay, Chantel.
Fascinating project. Quick question. Who will pay for the reducing grocery bills of the participants?
So there isn't a grocery bill. We were actually buying the fruits and vegetables from the local farmers, and they will be creating produce boxes, a weekly produce box that will be given to the community members that are part of the intervention.
So the research project, the research component will buy the boxes.
Yes, we will be buying the fruits and vegetables from the local farmers that will formulate the actual produce box that will be given to them weekly.
Sure, I have a question. So any insights regarding the food as medicine or food as medicine can enhance the patient also take their true medicine to control their blood pressure and the fasting and glucose levels?
Okay, so there is a health component. So Delta Health Centers, their providers, they will be looking at key timelines like baseline 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, because it is a yearly intervention. So we'll be able to see if their health is if their health of high blood pressure, diabetes, or anything has changed throughout the intervention. We will also be able to notice that based off of the biomarkers.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Was there a question online? Question online from Aaron Coughlin de Perez. Have you ever considered providing pre-chopped vegetables to go along with the quick cook recipes?
Well, that is a good question. That is a great question, actually. From my understanding, we are still in the beginning phases of how we're going to actually implement the food as medicine project with regards to the fruits and the vegetables. From my understanding, currently right now, they will be whole fruits and vegetables, but that insight is very, very, very important, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And for those of you online, I saw that Dan Schultz also shared a link with some more of the details about the larger context of the project. Thank you so much, Dr. Jones, for this. Thank you so much to all our speakers, Dr. Moore, Dr. Gao, Dr. Nika, and thank you all for sticking within the time available. If you love this format of fast talks from postdocs and need more, go online. We have recordings. We've done this about once a year the last few years. So I know that Danielle Kroboth, Kathy Fuller, and Lu Wang presented last year in our lightning talks, and those are recorded as well as from the previous year. Jean-Tao, any final announcements?
So next week will be more, I think their seminar here is about food is medicine next week. So our speaker series will resume after next week. So welcome to come here. Yeah.
And also thanks again to Lisa Cho for all the work she does to keep this running smoothly and get everything set in advance. Make it very easy to get these things together. All right, bye everyone.
Thank you.